I should have never followed that trail past the broken game sign. Every hunter in Redwater County knows the rule. The North Slope ends where the trees stop whispering your name back. Past that, it's not a forest anymore. It's territory, claimed, patrolled, enforced. But when the sheriff asked for volunteers to find the missing father and son, the ones last seen dragging a deer toward the wrong edge of the ridge, I said yes. Maybe out of guilt, maybe out of pride, or maybe because I'd heard the stories since childhood and never believed a single one. That was before I stepped into the tree line and felt the woods exhale, not the wind, not the cold. Something lower, older, like the ground was relieved. I'd finally arrived. I radioed back. I'm entering North Slope. Snow's fresh. No tracks yet. Static answered me. 2 sharp pops, then silence. Fine. I kept walking. The deeper I pushed, the more wrong the forest felt. Not hostile, not yet, but observant. Every trunk leaned slightly inward, shade pooling in their roots like spilled ink. The snow behaved strange, too. It was heavy only in places, like something massive had walked through minutes before, redistributing weight the way predators do when they stalk silently. That's when I saw the first sign. A hunter's orange cap torn in half, not ripped along. The seam peeled open, as if split by claws spaced too far apart to belong to any animal I knew. I lifted it, and the inside was warm. That was impossible. The father and son had been missing for 34 hours. I felt the forest inhale again. "All right," I whispered. "You've got my attention." Something crunches snow behind me. Slow, measured. I turn, expecting a cougar, maybe a wolf. But what I see instead are prints, fresh, deep, bipedal. 3 times the size of a man's foot, almost canine, but stretched, twisted, built for propulsion, not walking, dogman tracks, exactly like the ones old hunters swore they'd seen before the forest took the others. I followed them because I had to, because if I turned back now, the woods would know I was afraid. An instinct told me fear was permission here. The tracks led downhill toward an old ranger tower, or what was left of it. The bottom half looked chewed, not by teeth, by power. Something that hit hard enough to splinter steel bolts and crumble concrete. Pine needles coated the ground in a perfect circle around the tower, like something had spun there so fast it sucked debris inward. My breath fogged out in long streams. Not from cold, from pressure. That's when the smell hit me. Wet fur, soil, heat, predator musk. I didn't hear it approach. I didn't hear it move, but I felt the shadow lean over me in a way no animal should be able to. I froze, every survival instinct screaming, "Don't run, don't breathe wrong, don't provoke." A low exhale brushed the back of my neck, hot, too hot for the winter air. Then a sound, not a growl, a murmur, a vocalization too structured to be animal, too distorted to be human. A single word made of breath and bone. Mine and the forest, every branch, every buried root, answered it by shifting, creaking, tightening, like muscle. I wasn't hunting anymore. I was in Dogman Territory, and the territory had just claimed me. Asterisk, asterisk, I didn't move, couldn't. The heat of that breath on my neck wasn't fading. It was circling. Like whatever stood behind me was walking around slowly, deliberately, savoring the moment. The snow at my feet shifted, not from wind, from weight, a heavy step, another, then silence. I forced myself to speak, voice cracking like old wood. "I'm looking for the boy." The forest didn't answer, but something else did. A soft whimper, human, close. I turned slowly, hands raised, scanning the tree line. My light cut across the pines, each trunk rising like prison bars in an unending maze. Shadows leaned in unnatural angles, too sharp, too tall. Then I heard it again, a boy's voice. Help! It wasn't strong, it wasn't even loud. It was wrong, thin, echoing, like the forest itself was repeating it back to me. I followed it anyway. What else was I going to do? Walk out and explain to the sheriff that the woods whispered a word and I gave up? Branches snapped underfoot as the trees pressed closer together, narrowing the path until I had to shoulder my way through. The forest didn't just seem alive, it seemed aware. Another sound, a dragging, snow, cloth, something heavy being pulled. Help. The voice was above me. That made no sense. I raised my flashlight. The beam hit something halfway up a pine trunk, and my breath caught. It was the boy, but not like I expected. He was cradled in a crook of the branches, 20 feet up, like the tree had grown hands to hold him. His eyes were open, but wrung too wide, whites showing all around. Pupils blown, and his body was shaking in short, violent bursts. Hey, I called. Hey, I'm here, I'm getting you down. He didn't react, didn't blink. Instead, he looked past me, into the darkness, as if watching something approach from behind. My instinct screamed at me to turn, to run, to fight, but before I could move, the trees shifted. Not swayed, shifted. Branches uncoiled around the boy like ribs loosening. They lowered him gently toward me. Too gently. Predators are gentle when they want prey to relax. His feet touched the snow, and for the first time he looked at me. Is my dad here? He whispered. My stomach twisted. The father was nowhere. Just this trembling boy with eyes like a hunted animal. I don't know, I said. Where did you last? But he wasn't listening. His gaze locked onto something in the trees behind me. His body shrank inward, trembling harder. It followed us, he said. They said not to run. His voice cracked. But he did. Dad ran, and it changed him. The words sank into me like ice. It changed him. The boy nodded. He went into the trees and didn't come out the same. I crouched to his level. Where is your father now? The boy lifted a shaking hand and pointed. At first, I saw only darkness. Then to faint amber lights glowed between the pines. Eyes, but not animal eyes. These were focused, refined, tracking us with unsettling patience. I raised my rifle. Stay behind me, I whispered, but the boy didn't move. His breathing slowed. His trembling stopped, and then he spoke in a voice too calm, too steady. You shouldn't point that at him. I froze. How do you know that? The boy's head tilted slightly. When he blinked, I saw it. His pupils weren't round anymore. They were narrowing, becoming slits. He doesn't like when they point things at him, he whispered. Who? The boy gave a small, soft smile. The one the forest belongs to. A shape stepped forward behind the trees, so tall its shoulders brushed the branches. Canine muzzle, elongated limbs, fur black enough to swallow moonlight. Dogman, the boy's voice dropped to a low murmur. He said you came here alone. My blood went cold. He likes when they come alone. The dogman took one slow step toward us, then another. The boy didn't run, because he wasn't afraid, because fear wasn't inside him anymore. Something else was asterisk. The boy's eyes were still wrong. Too steady, too calm. Pupils narrowing to slits with each heartbeat, like they were learning how to change in real time. And behind him, the dogman stepped fully into the clearing. It was enormous, 7, maybe 8 feet tall, a body like a nightmare sculpted from muscle and fur, moving with precision that wasn't animal, but aware. The amber glow of its eyes washed over the snow like a spotlight. My instincts screamed at me to run, but something in the forest whispered back. Don stared at the rifle in my hands. Its ears twitched, not backward like a wolf about to attack, but forward, alert, calculating. The boy spoke again, his voice no longer a whisper, but something smooth, almost practiced. He doesn't want to hurt you. He wants you to understand. I swallowed hard. Understand what? That this isn't your world anymore. Behind us, trees shifted subtly at first, like a breeze passing through, but there was no breeze. Branches bent inward. Roots pushed through the snow like giant fingers clawing their way up. The forest wasn't just closing in, it was repositioning, creating boundaries, corridors, channels. The Dogman took another step forward, snow compacting under its weight with a deep, resonant crunch. I raised the rifle again. Stay where you are, I warned. The Dogman stopped. The boy didn't. He turned toward me slowly, like his joints weren't used to human movement anymore. You shouldn't point that, he said. He warned you. What happens if I do? The boy's lips curled into something that shouldn't have been a smile. He tests you. My finger tightened on the trigger, and the forest reacted. The trees around us shifted violently, branches snapping, trunks cracking as if something huge was pushing through them. The Dogman didn't move an inch. He didn't have to. The forest was moving for him. The boy leaned closer to me, his breath warm in the freezing air. Do you hear it? I didn't want to, but I did. A low rumble beneath the snow. A vibration that crawled up my boots and into my bones. Not footsteps, a heartbeat, no. A rhythm, a pulse, an announcement. Territory, claimed territory, alive, run, the boy whispered, and it gets worse. The Dogman lifted its head slightly, sniffing the air, as if cataloguing me my scent, my fear, my intention. Then its jaw opened, not to roar, not to growl, to speak. A guttural, broken voice forced its way through vocal cords built for howling. Leave. The word snapped the world in half. I staggered backward. You can talk. Its head tilted, ears twitching. It wasn't confused that was studying me, like a biologist observing a specimen. Leave, it repeated, deeper this time. A warning layered in another sound, one I didn't recognize. Primal and ancient. The boy stepped between us. He's giving you a chance, he said softly. He doesn't offer many. And what about you? I asked. The boy looked at the Dogman, then at the trees. His voice was barely human now. I'm already part of this. That's when the sound changed. The forest's shifting grew louder, more urgent, because something else was coming. Something bigger. The Dogman turned its head toward the dark ridge beyond the pines, body tensing. From that direction, a howl rose. Not wolf, not dog. Something massive, layered, harmonic, vibrating the ground. The Dogman's ears flattened. The boy's face drained of color. He's not the only one who claimed this forest, the boy whispered. The Dogman crouched low, muscles rippling, breath steaming in the frigid air. Another howl answered. Closer. Heavier. The boy grabbed my wrist. We have to go, he whispered urgently. He's not here to protect us from you. The Dogman growled not at me, but at whatever was approaching. The trees shuddered. Snow cascaded off their branches far down the slope. A shape moved. Huge, dark, wrong. Run. The Dogman snarled without looking back at me. Not a warning, a command. The boy bolted into the trees. This time, the forest opened a path for him. Another path opened beside it, for me, not wide, not inviting, just enough that Dogman stepped between me and the approaching shape. Claws extended, fur bristling. Whatever was coming wasn't a hunter, wasn't a wolf, wasn't a dogman. It was something else. And the territory had just split itself in two, one path for the chosen, and one path for the disposable. I took the one meant for me, and as I ran, the forest whispered a truth I didn't want to understand. Your prey now. Asterisk, asterisk. The forest wasn't a forest anymore. It was a maze, a shifting one. Every path the trees opened for me closed behind me, like a mouth sealing shut. The snow, which had been soft and scattered earlier, now formed deliberate ridges that funneled me forward. I wasn't running through the woods. I was being herded. The boy vanished ahead of me, swallowed by a column of pines that shifted like rotating pillars. He didn't look back, didn't need to. He knew I wasn't meant to follow him. The dogman had made that clear. Something enormous crashed through the trees behind us. The ground shook with each step, branches snapping, trunks splitting like kindling. Snow blasted past me in freezing clouds, not from wind, from impact. The creature wasn't trying to hide. It didn't have to. It was fast, faster than the dogman, faster than anything that big had a right to be. I ducked beneath a fallen log as splinters rained down from above. Something had struck the trunk behind me hard enough to shatter its core. Not claws, not teeth. Force, a predator who didn't stalk, who didn't test, who didn't warn. It consumed everything in its path. The dogman's roar echoed behind me. Not a howl, but a full-throated challenge vibrating through the soil. A warning to whatever chased me. Or maybe a threat. Either way, it bought me a few seconds. I sprinted downhill, lungs burning, legs numb from cold and terror. The forest grew darker the deeper I went, branches arching overhead like a rib cage. That's when I heard the boy's voice again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Two. Voices layered together, human and something else. Don't go that way. I skidded to a stop. The boy stood between two pines, half hidden by shadow. His posture was wrong, stiff, too still, like he was listening to something inside him. I said, "Don't go that way," he repeated. Why? He pointed to the ground. First, I didn't see anything. Then the snow shifted, not melting, breathing. A sunken patch of white rose and fell in slow rhythm. The earth itself was inhaling. "What is that?" I whispered. The boy tilted his head. When he spoke, both voices answered. "It's where he sleeps." A thrill of cold crawled through me. Who? The one older than the dogman. The one he fears. The one the forest fears. Another crash behind me. The creature chasing me was close enough to snap branches like twigs. The dogman's roar rose again, strained. Furious, Boyer stepped forward, and the moonlight caught his face, and I saw it. His teeth were longer, his jaw slightly stretched, his pupils glowing faint amber, not fully transformed, not bitten dock-lamed. "Double quotes your father," I whispered. He nodded once slowly. He ran, and the forest punished him. It made him part of itself. "He's not still your father, is he?" The boy smiled, sad and strange. "He is, but he's also not. The forest keeps those it changes. It keeps all of us." A thunderous crack tore through the clearing. Something huge barreled into view behind me. I turned and froze. Because the thing that rushed through the trees wasn't just a creature, it was a silhouette of muscle and fur and bone, towering, hunched, with arms too long and legs that bent like an elk's, eyes like molten pitch. The ground cratered beneath each step. This wasn't a dogman, this was something else. Something older. The boy whispered, "It's awake." Before it could reach me, a dark blur slammed into its side, the dogman. The collision shook snow off branches for yards. Both creatures tumbled, snarling, ripping into each other with bone-cracking force. The boy grabbed my wrist. "We need to go now." I didn't argue. We ran as the two monsters tore through the forest, snapping trunks like matchsticks. "Why is that thing chasing me?" I gasped. The boy didn't look at me when he answered. "Because you stepped into his territory." "But the dogman, he's trying to protect me." Another layered voice. "He's not protecting you." We crashed through a narrow canyon of trees. "He's hunting him." A howl deep, ancient, impossible rolled across the forest. The boy slowed, his breath fogged in steady, unnatural waves. "You're part of it now," he whispered. "You entered the forest. It marked you. The dogman fights for the right to decide your fate." "My fate." The boy nodded, and the forest seemed to nod with him. Every hunter who enters becomes prey. Every prey becomes property, and every property must choose which monster claims them. My blood turned cold because the forest hadn't been trying to kill me. It had been trying to sort me, and the dogman wasn't chasing the other creature. He was fighting for me, claiming me, owning me. Behind us, the roars grew louder, closer, final. The boy's slit-pupiled eyes glowed faintly. "You have to choose soon," he murmured, "or the forest will choose for you." The forest pushed us into a ravanero steep, slick with ice. The boy didn't slip once. I nearly broke my leg twice. He wasn't moving like a scared kid anymore. He was moving like something born of these trees, something that belonged. Here we reached the bottom, where a thin creek ran black beneath the moonlight. The forest was quiet now, the kind of quiet that isn't peace, but preparation. The boy stopped and turned toward me. "You have to understand," he said, voice doubled again. "There's no leaving once the forest marks you." I didn't ask to be marked. It doesn't matter. Territory decides. It always decides. Territory, not the creatures. The boy's eyes glinted. The creatures are expressions of it. They're its hands, its teeth, its judgment. Something huge slammed into a tree above us, shaking loose snow. The dogman and the unknown creature, the other alpha, the one even the forest seemed to fear, were fighting their way down toward the ravine. Trees toppled, branches rained like spears. Snow surged in waves. "You said the dogman fights for the right to claim me," I said. Double quotes, "Yes. And the other creature, what does it want?" The boy looked up the ravine. His eyes widened, glowing faint amber. "It wants to finish the hunt." "Why me?" "Because you came alone." His breath came out slower now, more controlled, more guided. "You broke the rule." "What rule?" He tilted his head, slightly childlike, eerie. "Never enter a thinking forest alone." Before I could question that, the air changed. Snowflakes drifted sideways. Water in the creek trembled. The dogman crashed into view, limping, fur torn, chest heaving. It landed on all fours, claws gouging deep trenches into the frozen mud. Its amber eyes locked onto me, not with rage, not with hunger, with ownership. It took a step forward. "Leave me alone," I said, raising my rifle. The dogman's ears pulled back, not in fear, in annoyance. It growled, a low rumble that vibrated the stones. The boy stepped between us, one hand raised. You can't threaten him. The forest already weighed you. Weighed me for what? For survival. His voice darkened, and for belonging. Then he jerked his head to the side, as another roar erupted above us. The other alpha appeared. It was bigger than the Dogman's massive shoulders, elongated limbs, fur black and matted with frost. Its muzzle was longer, more distorted, less wolf, more nightmare. Its eyes weren't amber. They were void-black. No shine, no reflection. Just two pits that drank in the moonlight. The Dogman snarled, stepping between us. Its hackles rose, spine arched, claws extended. The other alpha growled back, deeper, older, resonating through the ground. The boy whispered, "It's the first, the one who ruled this forest before the pack. What does it want with me? It wants to reclaim its territory. By killing me." The boy gave an unsettling half shrug. "By deciding you." The other alpha stepped closer. Branches above bent away from it like frightened animals. The Dogman lunged, faster than I thought something that size could move. They collided mid-air with a sound like a car crash. Snow exploded upward. The ravine walls shook. The Dogman clawed at the other alpha's throat. The other alpha slammed him into the ground, pinning him. The Dogman yelped a sudden, painful sound. I'd never heard a Dogman express pain. I didn't know they could. The boy grabbed my arm now. He whispered, "You must choose." Choose what? He stared up at me, something ancient flickering behind those young eyes. "Which alpha you want to live?" The fight raged behind him, fur claws, fangs, snarls echoing like thunder. He pointed at the Dogman. "This one protects territory." He pointed at the other alpha. "This one is territory." What does that mean? It means one kills you quickly. He slowly turned his head toward the Dogman, whose amber eyes met mine even while being pinned down. "And one lets you live under its rules." "What rules?" The boy smiled faintly. "You don't get to be human anymore." My breath caught. Above us, the other alpha slammed the Dogman into a boulder, cracking it in half. The Dogman's howl was choked, weaker now. "Help him," the boy said quietly. "You can tip the scales, shoot the one you don't choose." "Why me?" "Because you stepped into the forest alone." His expression hardened into something old and merciless. Territory must evolve. Another roar. The Dogman collapsed, pinned by the other alpha's weight. Its amber eyes dulled, losing strength. It wasn't asking for help. It was waiting for my decision. The boy whispered, "Choose, or the forest chooses for you." The other alpha lifted its head, black eyes locking onto mine, inviting me, challenging me, claiming me, and behind them both, the forest held its breath. The ravine was absolutely silent. Not quiet, silent, like the entire forest had stopped breathing, waiting for my choice. The Dogman lay crushed beneath the other alpha's weight, fangs bared, claws clawing desperately at the stone. Amber eyes locked onto me with a plea it would never lower itself to voice. The other alpha's void-black gaze pinned me, not as prey, not as threat, as resource, as if my decision was part of a ritual older than the soil under my feet. Behind me, the boy spoke in that strange double voice again. "This is the point where hunters stop pretending they're in control." I kept the rifle raised. My hands shook, not from fear, but from a sickening understanding. The forest hadn't lured me here. It had selected me. What happens if I shoot the Dogman? I asked. The boy didn't blink, didn't breathe. "The first alpha claims you. You become part of the deep territory. And if I shoot the big one..." The boy tilted his head, and for a second, the human expression inside him resurfaced pure sadness. "The Dogman claims you. You live in his territory. His rules. his protection. And if I don't choose, the forest answered. Branches cracked overhead. The snow at my feet trembled. Roots shifted beneath the surface like snakes. The ravine walls creaked inward slightly, tightening ceiling. The boy stepped closer. Then the forest digests you. My stomach dropped, figuratively. His glowing slit pupils widened. No, the other alpha growled low and ancient, a sound that carried weight, history, hunger. The dogman snarled again, weaker this time, pinned, claws slipping in the frozen mud. His amber eyes flicked to my rifle and then back to my face, a silent command not to help him, to hurry. The boy whispered, voice layered. Do you want to live under the first? The one who lives inside the trees? The one the dogman himself fears? The other alpha pressed down harder on the dogman's ribcage. A sickening crack echoed. Or under the dogman who enforces the forest's order but still remembers what humans used to be. And if I don't want either, I hissed. The boy smiled softly, terribly. Then you shouldn't have stepped into thinking territory alone. My hands tightened on the rifle. Every instinct screamed to shoot the first alpha, the creature whose very presence warped the woods. But a deeper instinct, the kind you don't learn. The kind you're born with, warned me. Shooting either one meant servitude, submission, ownership, a life in chains. The dogman snarled again, writhing, trying to free himself. The other alpha slammed him into the ground. A second crack. The dogman's breath hitched. He was dying. If he died, the first alpha ruled alone. If both died, would the forest collapse? Or would it become worse? The boy's voice sharpened. Choose or be chosen. My heart pounded so loudly it felt like the trees were listening to it. Two monsters, two futures. Neither human. And then a third option hit me. It was insane. Impossible. Suicidal. But it was the only one that smelled like freedom. I didn't shoot the dogman. I didn't shoot the first. Alpha lifted the rifle end, fired straight up into the ravine wall. The crack was enormous, enough to loosen the frozen shale, enough to destabilize the edge, enough to the wall above the creatures gave way. A cascade of rock, snow, and uprooted branches thundered downward. The first alpha snapped its head up too late. The avalanche slammed into it, ripping it off the dogman and burying it beneath a mountain of debris. The forest shrieked. Not the creatures, the forest. The trees convulsed. Snow blasted horizontally. Every root under the ground twisted like something was writhing beneath them. The boy screamed, a sound layered with 100 other voices. The dogman staggered free, chest heaving, ribs broken but alive. He looked at me, not with gratitude, with shock, with fury, with respect. He stood wobbled then, let out a roar that split the air. The forest stilled immediately. Silenced a bane, his amber eyes burned into mine. A message without words. You rejected the claim. You broke the rule. You surprised us. The boy dropped to his knees, touching his head, voices inside him screaming. What did you do? He gasped. He'll wake up stronger. They always wake up stronger. I didn't choose either alpha, I said. I chose myself. The boy stared at me with awe and terror. No one chooses themselves in this forest. Behind us, the rubble shifted slowly, massively. The first alpha was still alive. The dogman hobbled toward the movement, casting one final glance back at me. Then he did something I didn't expect. He nodded, not friendly, not approving, acknowledging. Then he leapt onto the debris to finish the fight. I'd interrupted. The boy grabbed my arm. We need to go now, he snapped. He'll rip the forest open when he wakes. Where? The boy pointed to a narrow split in the ravine I hadn't noticed before. A crack in the rock just wide enough for a person. The forest gave you one exit, he whispered. It won't give you another. We ran, and behind us something ancient, something angry, something unkillable began to rise. The crack in the ravine walls was barely wide enough for a person, but the boy shoved me through like he'd done it 100 times. On the other side, the tunnel narrowed, curling like ribs overhead, damp earth brushing my shoulders. Behind us, the world roared, a sound so massive it shook dirt loose from the ceiling, so deep it rattled my teeth. Not an animal, not a monster, a force. The boy grabbed my hand, claws half grown and shaking. He's awake, he whispered. They never wake up clean. The tunnel widened, suddenly opening into a hollow beneath the forest floor. Roots spiraled downward like a staircase carved by a giant hand. Light flickered from above, flashes of gold, red, silver. The boy yanked me forward. We're running out of time, move. We scrambled up the root spiral. The air thinned. Heat radiated from somewhere above, intense, pulsing, wrong. Then we emerged into a clearing. Except it wasn't a clearing. It was a wound. The forest canopy had torn apart, branches hanging like snapped ribs. Snow smoldered. Trees leaned inward as if bowing or collapsing. A crater opened in the center, glowing with a molten, hellish light. The first alpha was clawing its way out, but it wasn't the creature we'd seen before. It was becoming something else. The dogman lunged from a broken pine trunk, slamming into the first alpha with everything it had. The two monsters collided, shredding entire trees. Shockwaves rippled through the forest floor. The boy staggered back, eyes wide. He's burning himself awake. He's not supposed to burn. And it was true. The first alpha's fur glowed from within, like it was lit by molten metal veins of red gold tracing along its limbs. Each beat pumping light, it shook the dogman off like a rag doll. The dogman hit a trunk so hard, the tree snapped in half. I stumbled forward. No, he can't take that. He can, the boy said quietly, but he won't survive round 2. The ground trembled beneath us, splitting. Lava-like light poured from cracks as though the forest was bleeding. I took the rifle off my back. The boy grabbed my arm. You can't shoot him. You're not choosing an alpha now. If you interfere again, what? The forest cracked open behind us, just slightly, revealing another glowing fissure. The boy's voice dropped an octave. You'll trigger the third. I froze. There's a third alpha, another one inside the forest. No, the boy said. He looked at me with those slit pupils, both child and creature. There's a third, because you created one. My breath froze in my throat. What are you talking about? You shot the ravine wall instead of choosing. You broke the bond. You broke the cycle. The forest has never seen a human reject both alphas. The boy swallowed, voice trembling. The forest is trying to make up for your choice. That back there, that's the forest's attempt to create a new alpha. That's impossible for humans, he said. Yes, the ground split further. Heat exploded outward. A third presence stirred deep below, massive, awakening like something ancient, stretching after a long sleep. The dogman roared, charging the first alpha again, this time slower, wounded, but determined. The first alpha met him with a blast of burning light that threw snow and earth skyward. The dogman crashed into a crater. The boy squeezed my hand so hard his claws broke skin. You have to decide if you want the dogman to live. I didn't answer. I couldn't answer. You can't choose the first alpha. You can't choose the dogman. And you can't choose the thing forming under our feet. The boy's voice cracked. So choose the forest. You said the forest isn't alive. It wasn't. The ground shook violently. It is now. The boy looked at me with raw, terrified honesty. You woke something. The first alpha slammed its claws into the earth, and with a horrible shudder, the whole forest bent. Every tree, every branch, every root, all pointing toward me. The boy's voice broke. He knows you rejected him. The first alpha roared. Molten veins pulsing, light blinding. The dogman lunged one last time to intercept the killing blow. But the first alpha spun and backhanded the dogman across the clearing so hard the creature skidded 50 feet through burning snow. He didn't get up. My heart plummeted. Double quotes, no dash, get up. He didn't move. The first alpha turned toward me, steam rising from its body, light dripping from its fur like liquid metal. It stepped forward, trees bowed, roots writhed, the ground split open beneath its feet, and the third alpha began to climb out. A hand, human-shaped, but huge. A silhouette of something forged from human refusal and forest will. The boy screamed, "Run! You don't get to watch this part." But I didn't run. I raised the rifle again. Against two gods, against the forest, against destiny, against every logic of survival. And the forest, the first alpha, and the creature forming beneath us all paused. As if my refusal meant more than my fear. As if the forest was waiting for my final decision. As if I were no longer prey, but the pivot point, the anomaly, the crack in an ancient system, the thing the forest could not predict. The first alpha took one step toward me, and the boy whispered, "You're not supposed to exist." **** Snow fell sideways, not drifting, not floating, avoiding, as if even the snowfall didn't dare touch the clearing. Where the alphas had clashed, the first alpha had vanished, consumed by its own light, pulled back into the fractured earth, leaving molten cracks that cooled into black scars across the forest floor. The third alpha, the thing the forest tried to forge from your refusal, never fully emerged. Your defiance froze the process, as though the forest hesitated, uncertain for the first time in its existence. Only one creature remained, the dogman. He lay motionless in the crater where he'd fallen, fur matted with ash and snow. His chest rose shallowly. Too shallow to be life, but not still enough to be death. You knelt beside him, his amber eye cracked open, just barely. A sound escaped him. Not a growl, not a whimper. A question, why? You didn't have an answer. You didn't save him. You didn't choose him. You didn't obey him. But you didn't let him die for someone else's throne either. You whispered, "I just didn't want the forest deciding for me." His eye closed again, but a moment later the faintest rumble vibrated through his chest. Not a threat, not pain. Something closer to recognition. The boy stands between worlds who turn to look for the boy. But he was already standing atop a cracked ridge, barefoot, eyes glowing with both human confusion and creature wisdom. "What happens now?" you asked him. He shrugged, though the motion rippled unnaturally down his spine. "Depends on what the forest becomes." I thought the forest was the forest. His slit pupils narrowed. It was a pause, until you made it choose. The ground rumbled gentle this time, like a sleeping giant shifting beneath blankets of dirt and roots. "You shouldn't have fired that shot," he said, "but I survived. That's the problem." He stepped toward you, snow melting under his feet though the air was freezing. Humans who break old laws aren't supposed to live long enough to regret it. "You swallowed. Is that a warning?" He shook his head. "A prediction?" The forest takes its first breath. A breeze slid through the trees, but not from wind, from exhalation. Branches bowed outward, leaves trembling with new awareness. You felt something brush inside your chest. Not physical, not painful. A presence, a mark. The forest had smelled your fear, your defiance, your refusal, and it had memorized you. Not as prey, not as a threat, as an anomaly, a variable in an old equation that never accounted for choice. The boy's voice softened. Before tonight, this place only obeyed the alphas, and now it watched you refuse them. He stepped beside you, looking down at the dogman, and it learned. The dogman wakes. The dogman's claws twitched. Snow dislodged from his fur. A soft growl bubbled up low, steady, alive. He dragged himself up slowly, every movement defiant of the pain raking through him. His gaze found you, burning with new intensity. The boy whispered, "He sees you differently now." How differently? As something he'll have to decide about soon. The dogman limped toward the tree line, then paused just before vanishing into the shadows. He didn't look back. He didn't bow. He didn't threaten. He simply acknowledged you by existing long enough to walk away. That was enough. The forest leaves you a final message as you turn to follow the boy out of the clearing. Something scratched at the snow where the first alpha had vanished. A mark, not written by hand or claw, by root. A single symbol etched into the dirt, glowing faintly. Under the snow, the boy froze. Oh, what does that mean? It means the forest accepted your refusal. And that's good. That's terrible. He backed away from the mark, like it radiated heat. That symbol is only drawn when a territory chooses a champion, but hasn't decided what to make them yet. Your breath caught. A champion? No. A pause. A problem. You stared at the symbol, at the forest shifting subtly around it, at the dogman limping away into darkened pines. What happens next, you asked. The boy smiled sadly. Next. He gestured to the dark horizon where many somethings began to howl. The forest spreads the story of the human who said no, and the creatures will come looking. Not to hunt you, he said, to understand you. He turned and started walking. Come on, it's a long way before the trees let you go. Ending note, the forest isn't finished with youth. Last thing you felt before leaving the clearing was a pulse under your feet. A heartbeat not yours, not the dogman's, not the first alpha's. Something new, something still forming. Something, born the moment you broke the cycle and refused to kneel. The boy whispered without looking back. Whatever's waking under there, it has your scent.